There's an African-American song, 19th century, which is so great. It says, when it looked like the sun wasn't gonna shine anymore, God put a rainbow in the clouds. Imagine. And I've had so many rainbows in my clouds. I had a lot of clouds. But I have had so many rainbows. And the thing to do, it seems to me, is to prepare yourself so that you can be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. Somebody who may not look like you, but be a blessing to somebody.
There's a voice crying out in the wilderness.
Failure. Heart. Jesus. Mom. Eventually. Coming. Amazing. Great. I don't know why this first thing. Recognizing of constant cycles and negative patterns that were getting me absolutely nowhere. And I ended up in a toxic relationship. And I know that's our favorite word, toxic, but it truly was a relationship that was not good for me at all. And it broke me in places that, to the point of no return. So there was only one way, and that was up after that relationship. My brokenness, even before ending up in the relationship, I was already broken. That's how I ended up there. But I had begun to be addicted to sex. I was a heavy drinker, and I would party a lot to just run from everything. So I just wouldn't sit still. Triggers, because I struggle with abandonment, is lack of attention. If a guy shuts down, even to this day, like that's a big trigger. Like if a guy shuts down and doesn't want to talk, I literally be wanting to square up. It's like, I'll swing on you right now, cuz. So, yes. Yes, it's funny because recently I realized another factor, but originally I thought it was just my dad because I haven't had a dad in my life since I was 4. And the way he walked out was very detrimental to my self-esteem and my worth. But then recently I realized that my mom is a big trigger because she wasn't emotionally available. She didn't encourage me. She didn't give me attention, but that's because she didn't have it either. So I had 2 major factors just result in me being broken and not feeling enough throughout my entire life. Whew, absolutely. Honestly, I realized that the bulk of my relationships were from brokenness. I remember watching a sermon from Stephen Furtick of Elevation Church, and he talked about how the healthiest part of him chose his wife. And that hit home because I'm like, the most unhealthy part of me chose every man I've ever dated because I've literally never had a healthy relationship. So it all stemmed from me not knowing what a healthy love looked like, not knowing what a healthy relationship looked like. I only knew broken and dysfunction. Now I'm way more aware. Sometimes it's a gift and a curse. I always say it's hard to be woke, because when you're aware, like, you can't go backwards. Like, you can't accept those things you used to accept, and you approach relationships so much slower. So your pool becomes smaller because you realize how many other people are broken and loving from a broken place. So it's like, oh my God, I'm not gonna date anyone. So it's just, you're slower, you're more aware, you're more analytical. And then when you do come into situations that don't work out, it's not as heavy, because you realize, like, okay, if God removed it, then it's not supposed to be here. How do I grow from it? Forgiveness to me is so funny, because I always thought I was a forgiving person, which I think I still am, but I don't, it's like I forgive, but I don't forget, because it's like all of my memory is absolutely trash. It's like when someone does something, it's still in the back of my head most of the time, but I do have people who I have forgiven and I let go. So I guess forgiveness to me is the ability to still understand what that person did, but release it to a point where I'm at peace when I talk about them, or even if I'm around them. Like, I literally have no emotional attachment at all. Ooh, it's been raggedy. It's never ending. And honestly, I recently just went through a situation where I realized that I had more healing to do. And I was angry at God, because I'm like, but I've literally healed enough for 10 people. So you want me to heal some more? They not healing. Like, this not fair. So it's just realizing that when you grow up, how I grew up without the nourishment that I needed to understand a healthy love, I started behind the starting line. So everyone else started, not everyone, but a lot of people started here. I started out back here. So I had to get here, and now I'm trying to get here. So it's like a constant, like, never-ending process. But it's a lot of excruciating days of sitting alone with yourself, by yourself, fighting through things. It's a lot of discomfort. It's a lot, like, that's literally what it is. Like, discomfort. And it's a lot of discipline and telling yourself no, and just obeying God, because if you don't obey him, he's gonna punch you in your chest. And a lot of getting to the end of yourself, because sometimes, we got free will. So we'll be like, I hear you, God, but I'm not gonna do it. And then you go and do your own thing, and he'll be like, you done? Are you done? You still gonna have to come back. You might as well speed the process up. But yeah, I've realized it's a never-ending process. I guess the journey just gets a little bit easier because you get stronger. So, and you just take it for what it is and learn how to live in the moment. The majority of the relationships I've gone through that have broken me down even more were my fault. And I say they were my fault, not necessarily because I did anything wrong, but because of the way I approached the relationship, the way I paced myself, which was too fast, and my choices. I chose the same negative cycle over and over and over, even in warnings from God. So I chose the brokenness in many things, although Romans 8:28 rings true, for all things work together for the good of those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. But at the same time, it's not necessary. God can use anything, and if you are wise enough to choose the right path, you don't have to be that broken. But I think realizing and coming to that point, like, wow, although those people were raggedy and they were of the devil, you didn't have to choose them. You chose them from a broken place because you ran from healing for so long. So that was a hard pill to swallow. It was a dependency. A lot of times I chose, so my therapist pointed this out actually, I dated a lot of disposable men. And I dated disposable men because of my abandonment. I felt like, okay, honestly, they're not someone that I would choose to marry. So if I attach myself to them and it doesn't work out, I really don't care that much, and it won't break me as much if they do leave. So let me just date this person who I know I don't necessarily want that bad, because I'm dependent upon them staying. Because why not? I'm better than them. So, and when I say better than them, it's not in like a cocky way, but it's kind of like where my standards are. Like, I got a graduate degree, they only got a GED. I ain't got no kids, they got 2 kids with 2 different baby mamas. Like, I'm ambitious, I'm a go-getter, I'm an entrepreneur. They work a 9 to 5 making almost minimum wage. Girl, what you doing? Like, what are you doing? So it was just like this dependency. Like, they were sucking me dry emotionally and mentally and for their ego, and I was sucking them dry just because I needed to be attached to somebody, because I didn't want to be alone, because alone to me affected my self-worth too much. So, yes. I would say slow down, and eventually we'll get there. I think pacing, because I'm such a go-getter, it's like when you separate your personal from your business, a lot of the time your sense of urgency in business is amazing. Like, that's what people want. But in your personal life, not so much, because you move too fast in too many things. So I think I've moved too fast in brokenness and in healing and choosing to do certain things that have affected me negatively. So I would definitely say to slow down, because I feel like I could have avoided a lot of pitfalls if I was moving slower. One would definitely be resilience. I never like allow life to knock me down where I can't get back up. Like, I'm getting back up. 2, I would say optimism. I always see the cup as half full, like at all times. No matter, like, if I'm having a bad day, by the end of that day, we still gonna see this cup as half full. And then the last thing would be a sense of humor. Just like, I think that's a part of just my family. Like, a lot of the times we kind of use humor as a defense mechanism, but it makes funny people. So, yeah. Absolutely. Right now I'm working on battling with loneliness, because I understand we all have a sense of belonging that's innate within every single person walking this planet. And for some reason, God has called my single season to be longer than others, which I don't understand. But I do know that although I'm alone, I don't have to feel heavy bouts of loneliness, but I do. So in the past, I thought I was okay because I was able to deal with it, but I've literally never been content with it. So I'm working on actually being okay and content, and not just suppressing the heavy emotion and saying, oh, I'm all right, when I know I'm really not.